Hey guys, Ron97 again. This time with a review of the 100 scale McGillis's Schwalbe Graze from the Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans series. For the color scheme, we're getting two shades of blue, one kind of dark blue, and then one very dark blue, which is almost black. For the inner frame, we just get the regular gray, also used for the weapons, the thrusters, and a few other small bits and pieces here and there. Then we get some white for his claw and also the inside of the claw, which actually should be gray, but hey. And finally, we also get some very nice yellow for the cylinders on his chest and also for his visor. Well, his two visors. For stickers, we're fortunately not getting a lot of them, and most of them are completely understandable. We have, of course, once again, when you open up the head, the yellow sticker that goes all over there. It doesn't look super great because, of course, it's a curved surface, but what are you gonna do? This never would have been made into a part. Then we also get a gray sticker, which should go on here, but you know, I kind of liked having a lot of yellow right there. Then two stickers, which I'm not as pleased with, are the two gray ones that wrap around here. This is a curved surface, and the stickers really don't look that great. It would have been much better if they did it like the 144 scale, made this a solid gray piece, and give us white stickers that go onto the flat curved surface. That looked so much better on the 144 scale. But back to good stickers, we have two gray ones, one on each side that go onto the blue pegs that show through, and a very nice metallic green one for the scope of the gun. Next up, the articulation, and it's very reminiscent of the 144 scale high grade. Head goes a bit up, a bit down, forwards and backwards on it, with some chicken movement going on with a double ball joint, but for some reason it's on the wobbly side and doesn't seem to completely connect, so that's a bit off. Then we'll of course also open up to reveal the sensor, as I've already shown. Arms will rotate around all the way and come off. Back in you go. Then some really good forwards and backwards movement thanks to, first of all, the hinge on his body that goes forwards, and then thanks to that ball joint, the arms themselves will also go a bit forwards and all the way backwards, up on that ball joint like that. Then the arm itself goes up for some really good upwards movement, and also shoulder arm itself can go upwards, back down, rotates around. Elbows bend at only one joint, unfortunately, and that's about as far as they get, like 110 degrees. Pull that back, hands are on ball joints, will wiggle around, turn around, and do everything a ball joint does. Then the waist, double jointed, we have one very nice hinge joint, which allows us to go forwards and backwards, and this time around, we do get actual working pistons, and that is really cool to see. Of course, on the high grade 144 scale, they were just pieces of plastic that didn't move at all. And we have a ball joint at the bottom for some extra forwards and backwards movement. And of course also rotation all the way around if you're careful, because of course there are a lot of things sticking out here. And side to side and to the back again. We have those two thrusters on the backpack. They are on ball joints, so we'll wiggle around, up, down, and then the thrusters here are on hinges, up and down. Onto the legs, go out about that far until the top pieces hit the inside, and then go. They do also have a pretty interesting setup, if I can quickly take this apart. So they have this extra hinge in there, which allows for extra action poses. Now it's kind of annoying when you're trying to pose it, because when you move the legs backwards, these hinges also have a tendency to just move backwards instead of the actual leg moving. So it's a bit of a give and a bit of a take. And the legs go forwards by that far. Unfortunately, these things still do not move. They are just molded in place and you cannot move them. And they do hinder the movement because, as you can see, the legs are pretty massive. Also, these pieces do really like to come off, especially if you add those additional thrusters, which will rotate around all the way. Then, also go backwards really far. Oddly enough, they go much further backwards than they go forwards. And then the legs will also rotate around about that far until things start getting in the way. The knees are double jointed. Pull this off. And you do get some really nice armor separation. Also, fold back all the way. And go to the back, we have a thruster that reveals itself. This little flap here goes a bit forwards and backwards. And finally the feet forwards, backwards quite far, side to side a bit. And we'll also rotate around a bit on that ball joint. Moving on to accessories, and let's start off with what's already on the machine. His claw, which of course can be removed. It's articulated, can go out. And then we get an extra, well, first of all, we get an extra connector piece that goes in there. No, other way around, there we go. So this goes in there, and then we get a wire unit. Simply feed that in there, feed it into the claw itself, and watch in amazement as it immediately sags down, which is something that of course always happens with a piece this big attached to a wire this thin. You can always try to get it to hold it up a little bit, you know, if you do some more crazy wire poses, but be prepared that eventually it's gonna touch the ground. And really, like I said, that just always happens. So let's shove it to the side. You're not really gonna get any really good action poses out of it unless you hook this thing up to an action base on its own. So now let's look at the other weapons we're getting. The usual gun. Move the hand. And unlike with the high grade, we actually get some pegs on here to attach it to the hand. Not that they're really necessary to use for the Schwalbe Graze itself, because of course this gun is going to be hardwired to the arm itself with the extra pieces that we're getting. Of course, the positive side is that if you want to give this gun to another machine, maybe a machine that's released in the future that doesn't have the ability to hardwire the gun to the arm, it's also going to be able to hold on to it absolutely perfectly. So now, or if you just want to use it a bit more freely for some more action poses and, you know, get more use out of that swiveling handle, that's a pretty cool inclusion. Because of course, once this piece comes into play, that rifle is going to go absolutely nowhere because it clicks into the gun, well, into the rifle itself, and then into the arm, making the gun literally an extension of the arm. Well, it's very secure in there. And for the people who don't like long barrels with their rifles, you can rip it off and replace it with a much shorter barrel. The only kind of downside is that this hole isn't really covered up, so it's really there for no reason, which is a shame. So really, the shorter barrel is kind of an afterthought, and it really looks like the model kit does want you to use the longer barrel. Ah well. For the final weapon that we're getting, the axe, which if you don't want to use it, can be connected to the side skirts just like that, and there's also a hole on the other side skirt. So if you get another axe, you can hook up both of the axes to it. And also, just like the rifle, it comes with two pegs, so it can be held into either hand. As for the rifle itself, it can technically also be held in both hands, except that, well, you won't be able to use the underside that hardwires it to the arm in the left hand. Simply put this in here, close the hand up again, and there we go. One unfortunate thing about the axe is that because of the pegs, you can only hold the axe like this, and in that case, the bottom of the axe does kind of collide with this lower part right here, meaning that the hand has to be angled up at all times and definitely hinders the mobility and the posability you have with the axe, because you can't really move it anywhere unless you kind of have it like this. You can see that we get a lot of movement like this, but like this, it really feels like you're forcing it. So yeah. Then the last things we're getting are these two open palm hands, you know, for offering chocolate to strangers. And one final thing I want to mention about the Schwalbe Graze is that the backpack is perfectly removable, revealing these two pegs for other things to be put in there. As always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? A bit yes and a bit no. And the big reason for the no is the price. Now, the Schwalbe Graze is by no means a bad model kit, and really, everything it does pretty well. The articulation, okay. Accessories, yeah, you get what you should get, kinda. There isn't a whole lot, but, you know, you get the signature weapons. As for looks, absolutely fantastic. Really nice added detail, especially compared to the 1/44 scale. And, you know, it's a bit give and take. If you like the increased detail, you're definitely going to love this thing. If you like it a bit more anime accurate, you've got the 1/44 scale. So far, everything okay. But then when you look at the price of 3,000 yen, it's just kinda, you know, where is the justification for the price? When you look at the articulation or really all the accessories you're getting, it's not that big of a change from the 1/44 scale, which retails at a meager 1,000 yen. So this guy, which is a bit bigger, is 3 times as expensive. And it's literally just like a bigger version of that. And usually, when you look at the prices of the 1/44 scale compared to the 100 scale, the non-master grade, you know, a price difference of twice the price is usually where it's at. You know, the high grade goes for 1,200 yen, the 1/44 scale goes for 1,200 yen, and then the 1/100 scale goes for 2,000 yen. Here, the price jump just seems quite high, because also, when you're looking at a price range of 3,000 yen, we're entering the lower tier of the master grades, and this thing, while it's very nice, it's still nowhere near a master grade. And if, for example, look at something like the Gundam Mark II 2.0, which retails for 3,500 yen, there's a pretty big price difference. And really what it all boils down to is, if you just want a Graze in 1/100 scale, it's a good model. Don't get me wrong on that. 3,000 yen, you're getting a nice solid model, just a bit of a wobbly head. But you can definitely find a much better deal out there for 3,000 yen. And finally, I quickly want to get into the final nail of the coffin of the 100 scale Graze, a head-to-head comparison between it and the 1/44 scale Schwalbe Graze. Now, as I've already said, they're very similar. Articulation, accessories, proportions, and then the big difference that I've already mentioned is their detailings, more anime accurate, more detailed, a lot of panel lines, but there is one final big difference which could really turn you off the 100 scale and want to make you go for the 144 scale, and that is available add-ons. You know, both come with about the same kind of meager amount of accessories, but this guy has a lot of support. There are a lot of add-on weapons in the 144 scale Iron-Blooded Orphans line, whereas this guy only has its own accessories and then maybe some accessories you can borrow from another model kit from the Iron-Blooded Orphans line or other weapons you just happen to have left over from another thing, but you cannot specifically buy weapons for this big clunker over here. You can, however, for the 144 scale. So if you really like to put a lot of weapons onto your machines, the 144 scale is going to give you much better bang for your buck. Not only in what you get out of the box, but also what you can buy for it afterwards. Then finally, for some size comparisons, first of all, here is next to the Master Grade Gundam Mark II version 2.0 and the Jim Kai. Next up, next to Luna Maria's Gunner Zaku Warrior, and just why not, next to some chocolate eggs, because you know, he needs something to hand out to people he doesn't know. And finally, here is next to the standard size Gym Custom and the always bulky Zaku 3. And that's all for this review. I'll see you guys next time.